The pressure on Boris Johnson continues to mount as a parliamentary inquiry reveals that events he attended in No. 10 breached COVID restrictions. The interim report from the House of Commons Privileges Committee found that Mr. Johnson may have misled the Commons about lockdown parties on 4 occasions and that it would have been obvious to him that the events he attended breached COVID restrictions. Despite this, Mr. Johnson has insisted that there is absolutely no evidence of any contempt of Parliament on his part. The report also revealed that Mr. Johnson could see a notorious party spot from his Downing Street flat, and that there was a reluctance from the government to provide the committee with unredacted evidence. As a result, the committee has called on Mr. Johnson to appear as a witness before MPs later this month. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has described the evidence in the report as pretty damning, and has accused Rishi Sunak of being very close to all of this and of sitting on his hands. Meanwhile, the government has signed off taxpayer-funded legal support to Mr. Johnson during the Privileges Committee investigation worth at least £222,000. In response to the report, Mr. Johnson has raised concerns about civil service investigator Sue Gray's move to Sir Keir's office and insisted that he was vindicated. However, the committee has insisted that its inquiry is not based on the Sue Gray report, but on evidence from witnesses, WhatsApps, emails, and pictures taken by a Downing Street photographer. The committee's report warns that breaches of guidance would have been obvious to Mr. Johnson at the time he was at the gatherings, and that there is evidence that those who were advising Mr. Johnson about what to say to the press and in the House were themselves struggling to contend that some gatherings were within the rules. The committee will examine Mr. Johnson's claims that all guidance was followed completely in No. 10, and the guidance was followed and the rules were followed at all times. Mr. Johnson will give evidence to the committee in the week beginning March 20 and has been invited to provide written evidence in advance of the session. The report's release has prompted criticism from some Conservative MPs, who have questioned the committee's decision to publish the findings before interviewing Mr. Johnson. However, the committee has stated that it will consider why Mr. Johnson failed to tell the House about the gatherings at which he had been present and why he told MPs that no guidance had been broken, when he knew what the guidance was and was in attendance at gatherings where the guidance was breached.